Hi guys, welcome to a gloomy day here in Chicago in the middle of July. How crazy is that? Workshop in Asana right now. What better asana to start with than downward facing dog? And so I want to talk a little bit about how to build a very strong, empowering, and functional downward facing dog, releasing tension but building strength. Because tension is such a BS place for our energy to go. Who needs it? Get it out of here. Downward facing dog is so intricate. First of all, it's a forward fold. So we're getting nice lengthening in the entire back side of the body and a lot of strengthening because it's also an inversion. It's a weight-bearing posture on the arms. And our arms are just not built for that sort of weight-bearing, not the way that our feet are, because if you look at my foot, this big, nice chunk of sole of foot right here, and this arch, this shock absorber right here, that is made for my weight. That is made for all 100 and some odd pounds, I'm not going to tell you what, but that is made for all of that weight to go right there. And if you look at my hand, by contrast, half of it is finger? So we need to be very careful here in building our downward facing dog so that, again, we can move out of this space of I don't want to be here, or this pose is too easy, I'm not getting anything out of it, into this space of almost floating. So I'm going to start with the foundation up. So again, weight-bearing posture in the hands, in the feet. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to start in tabletop position, and for my friends here who are maybe working through an injury or are working through a lot of limitations in their body, tabletop position is actually a wonderful modification and a wonderful startup pose for downward facing dog. So we're going to find tabletop position. We really want to optimize this for our bodies here, move into a space of functionality, fun being the first part of that word, ew. And so I'm going to stack wrist, elbow, shoulder right here. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure that my wrist creases are parallel with the top edge of the mat. I'm going to make sure that they're shoulder width distance apart, and I'm going to get real specific. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pick up my hands one at a time, and I'm going to isolate from the very tips. We're going to get real freaky with our anatomy here. Real freaky. We're going to be nerds. We're all going to be going to anatomy conventions after this. So from the tip of our finger to the first knuckle crease, that's about 2 centimeters. We're going to take all 10 of those and we are going to press down into the earth here. Like we have these tented fingers, these spider claws almost. And then, keeping that weight placement, look at how white your fingertips are here. It's gorgeous. From here, I'm going to then layer down my fingers to the next knuckle. I'm still going to keep all that weight in the top of my fingers. This is really going to help you out if you are a wrist person. Wrist people, listen up. From here, I'm going to keep all that. I'm going to gently layer the rest of my finger pads down on the earth. Now my finger pads are layering, but they are also using the earth. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. They are not just hanging out on the earth is enlivening them. It is inspiring them into strength. From here, I'm going to gently take my palms down to the earth, and I can already feel with this much activation through my palms, I can feel a lifting through my entire arm bone. I'm going to externally rotate my arm bone, so I'm going to roll inner biceps out. This is going to get the shoulder blades to wrap nicely on the back. And sort of a good visual indication is that that soft crease of your elbow will usually point to the opposite upper corner of the mat. So you can take these visual cues, but I also want you to feel anatomically what is happening here as the inner bicep rolls out. Tricep has to engage here. So engage through that tricep. Again, weight-bearing posture in the hands, help it out. Use the orchestration of the body here. Paying attention to my whole backside of my body here. I'm going to lengthen from the crown of my head to my tailbone. So don't forget about the neck here. The neck is part of that spine. Spine, super important. Should be the most important part of our practice. That's where our spinal cord is. Who cares about the legs? Who cares about anything else? Let's get a healthy spine practice going on. So from here, as I lengthen through the crown of my head from my tailbone, I'm going to pull my low ribs in and up. And see if you can release the rectus abdominis. Haha. Release that. That's the six-pack muscle. Muscle. But instead, we are going to engage the transverse abdominal muscle. Hello, heard that word? All right, so that muscle, just briefly I'm going to show you those sexy hip bones, as is, sections on the front side of the body. You move right into the center line here. That's the center of the pelvis. There is a deep lower abdominal muscle in here that is going to ignite, especially on the exhalations. And this will help keep the hips stabilized. So see if we can engage that muscle right now. From here, I'm going to tuck my toes under, and I'm going to press back with the balls of my feet here, lift high with my heels. So I feel this nice stretch here. And as I come up, I'm going to gently lift my knees up, lift my low belly up, and come back into a downward facing dog with bent knees. We never need to straighten our legs in yoga or in life. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. So with these bent knees, maybe if it feels good to you, you can start pedaling out the feet, just knowing what's available today. Not yesterday's practice, not yoga journal's practice. As I'm still clawing down through my palms, I'm going to again roll inner biceps out here. I'm going to lengthen my tail all the way up to the sky here. So as you come up onto tiptoes, lengthen the tailbone all the way up. But I want to take the whole pelvis with it. So we're not sticking the sit bones all the way up and dropping the front of the pelvis down. You can see how my belly kind of spills out there. I'm working into improper lower back placement. So here I want to take the whole pelvis up towards the sky. I want to keep those sexy hip flexors right in line with the heart, as if they're being pulled up into the heart space here. Once I got that, I got my hips all the way up, I got my pelvis in a neutral rotation in relationship to my spine. Maybe now I can begin to straighten the legs down. And as I straighten the legs down, I'm going to go ahead and engage quadriceps and inner thighs especially. And I want you to feel this. I want you to pull root energy up through the inner arches of the feet. Ignite through the inner ankles here. And if that doesn't make sense, just think it to yourself until it does, because it will start making sense. So pull that energy up through inner ankles, and then through the inner thighs. Those will take the head of the femur bone back in space here, so that we get nice and long in the back body. And now most of the weight is actually in my legs. Most of the weight isn't even in my arms anymore. All right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about different variations we can use for different limitations that our bodies might be in. So if you are a friend with CompuSpine, which is sort of that excessive kyphotic curve in the upper back, spend a lot of day hunched over. First of all, before we even think about a downward facing dog, which is such a heart opener, it's actually partially a back bend. So before we even start thinking about that, I want you to do some shoulder opening work. You can do that before practice. I'm going to give you the same modification as I'm going to give somebody who has really tight hammies. So if you are a friend with CompuSpine, your back might end up looking like this. And if you are a person with tight hammies, you also might end up looking somewhat like this. Super curved in that low back, super curved in that upper back. So for my hammy friends, for my upper back friends, we have options. Now again, you can always work into tabletop position. If you have yoga blocks, these will be your best friend. Now the reason why these are going to help you out is because downward dog is a forward fold. If I were standing up and doing downward dog, it would look like this. What our blocks are going to do is they're going to help elevate our earth for us so that our forward fold isn't as intense and we can get more into the fascia of the hammies. We can get more into this upper back area, maybe find some more expression. If you are an upper back person, feel free to actually externally rotate the palms. Earlier I said that the wrist creases should be parallel with the top edge of the mat. Externally rotating the palms is going to help encourage those arm bones to even more external rotation, which is going to encourage the upper back to open up for you. But I still want you to layer down the fingers, layer down onto the palms, protect the palms here. Additionally, for our upper spine and our hammy friends, we're going to take these blocks, and if you're working at home, you don't have them, maybe you have a phone book that was delivered to you several years ago that you can use, or any number of things. Let's get creative here. So go ahead and layer them down on your mat, shoulder width distance apart, and I'm just going to layer everything down into my blocks the same way as I did into the earth. Tuck my toes under, send my hips back, downward facing dog. If even that doesn't feel so good to you, use a chair, use a wall. So I can go ahead and really press through the arms as I find space here, space through the arm bones, space through the upper back. Can I see if I can still externally rotate my arm bones, melt the heart space down? Of course. Can I bend in my knees? Of course. Now I want to talk to my super flexy friends. If you are a super flexy friend and you're like, yeah, I got my downward facing dog, it feels so awesome. You shove your heart as far back towards your shins as possible. I'm gonna keep my arms exactly how they are right here. I'm gonna lift up. My arms are all the way back here. They're well behind my shoulder. We're actually not stretching there. We're getting into connective tissue that can be sort of dangerous for us. And when my arms are all the way back here, my power is gone. I have nothing holding on here. I'm essentially just kind of using my body as dead weight. And I don't want to do that. I want to empower through my body. So if you are my super flexy friend and you have the problem of locking your shoulders out, yes, what I want you to do is every time you get into downward facing dog, you're pressing all the way back here. You feel this nice stretch in the shoulders. Right here, I have no armpits. If I look underneath, it's a long straight line from arm bone to torso. I want you to roll onto the balls of the feet. Take the weight forward until you have armpits. Oh, hi armpits, I have you again. From here, you can keep that as you lower the feet. And you can keep sending the pelvis high. So that here I have this nice long line of energy. I want you to keep pulling low ribs in. Usually when we spill out into our shoulders, our low ribs are coming out. It's just a matter of feeling empowered here. Let's find our downward facing dog. So you can use the wall, you can even just work in tabletop position. And all these principles are still true. Wherever you are, I want you to layer down your palms. Wrist creases are parallel or slightly externalized. As you layer down the palms, I want you to externally rotate upper arms, inner biceps out, engage triceps as you melt the heart down. Lengthen from tailbone to crown of head, and immediately engage transverse abdominis muscle. Let the other belly muscles be soft here so that we can inhale without compression and we can get full spaciousness. From here, I want you to tuck the toes under. Stretch through the soles of the feet as you press the heels back, balls back. Engage quadriceps here. The more you press back and into the earth, feel the quadriceps engage. Feel inner thighs ignite, internally spiral as the femur bone goes backwards. Keeping those toes tucked, I want you to lift through the low belly space and come on up into your downward facing dog. Keep rooting down through the palms here. Keep externally rotating through those biceps. And now maybe begin to pedal out the feet. Stay with bent legs here. It takes a lot for our body to get warmed up to us. And where did this BS notion come from anyway, that we have to be in the full version of the pose immediately? Where did that come from? Get that out of our heads, out of our practice. Go ahead and stay there for between 3 to 7 more breaths, depending on what's available to you right now. Let the eyes gently close or be soft towards the back. If the eyes are open, gently graze down over the legs, the calves, even to the toes. And really notice with awareness, when was the last time you actually looked at these parts of our body and thanked them for their function, thanked them for the efficiency, the optimization as they carry us through our day and they carry our burdens. And know that in yoga, the backside of the body is your connection to things outside of yourself, to the external. Feel that connection lengthen, broaden as you keep grounding down through the palms. Reaching down through the heels now, maybe you begin to straighten the legs. And I want you to feel that the front side of the body is our connection to ourselves. And I don't mean that the self that we operate from when we're out binge drinking and yelling at people. I mean the highest self. The self that is all wisdom, all knowing, all the time. That self that is our pinnacle of strength that brings us through situations we did not know we could overcome. You're in an upside down V right now, and your connection to your highest self, you are forward folding into that. You are bowing into your truest nature as you expand this luscious backside that connects you to all living things outside of yourself. Let us work from this place of curiosity, of anatomical freakishness, as we transform. Because that's what this is all about. And isn't that a glorious, glorious thing when we are able to come into ourselves, into the walls in our skin. And as always, the light in me sees, honors, and reflects the light that you each are. Namaste.